5 angle pair relationships, day 2. We're going to identify special angle pairs such as a linear pair and vertical angles. So yesterday you were working on solving for a missing angle given that the angles were complementary or supplementary. We are going to go back to that, but we're going to take a break for a moment to spend a day just doing identifications. So today is September 2nd, 2020. And the two types of angles that we're going to be identifying today are linear pair and vertical angles. So the nice thing about linear pair is it tells you up front that you're looking for two angles, because that's what pair means. And sometimes geometry has nice words like that. You know it's a pair. So two adjacent angles whose non-common sides are opposite rays. So just a reminder of some vocab word here. Adjacent is they're going to be touching. They're going to be sharing a ray, a line, a segment. They're going to touch, like two classrooms that are adjacent share a wall. If two classrooms are across the hall from each other, they are not considered adjacent. And then opposite rays, remember that an opposite ray is a line. So if it's two adjacent angles whose non-common sides, the non-touching sides, are forming opposite rays, then they are forming a line. So another way to think about linear pair is it's two angles making a line. So there's linear pair, two angles making a line. So what does that picture look like? The most basic format of that picture is that you have a line, and then there's an additional ray. So now that there are two angles that share a common side, and then the two other sides make a straight line. That's the most basic picture for linear pair. Vertical angles are two non-adjacent angles whose sides form two pair of opposite rays. So we know an opposite ray is a line, so now there's two pair of lines. So another way that you can look at the definition of vertical angles is two non-adjacent angles formed by intersecting lines. And so just remember that non-adjacent is they're not touching, more specifically that they don't have a common side. So a picture for vertical angles would be a line, a pair of opposite rays, a second line, a second pair of opposite rays, and then we want the two angles that are not adjacent. So if I say this is angle 1, that can't be it because that's a linear pair. And this bottom one can't be it because that's a linear pair. So this has got to be the other vertical angle. You will notice that the angles do not necessarily go up and down. So the angles are not necessarily vertical. So please do not describe them using only the word vertical, because that does not tell you that it's a pair of angles being formed by intersecting lines. You might have noticed that if I look at the same picture, I actually have a second set of vertical angles, and they're right there. And those do happen to be vertically positioned, but that is not always going to be the case. So just the word vertical by itself does not describe these angles. Okay, so the goal for the lesson was to identify special angle pairs. So that's what we're going to do. It says Do angle 1 and angle 2 form a linear pair, or do they make vertical angles? So the first thing out is just look. Excuse me. Are they adjacent or are they not adjacent? So are angles 1 and 2 adjacent or not? Do they share a side? No, they do not. So then you go to the second half, okay? So they're non-adjacent. Are they being formed by two pair of opposite rays? Are they being formed by intersecting lines? Yes, they are. So this is vertical angles. And remember, you have to write all of that. And if you're like, I don't really want to write all that out, this is the shortcut. You can still write the word vertical, C-A-L, and then use the angle symbol. You definitely cannot just say vertical. Vertical means something else. Number 2. Again, are they adjacent or not? Yes, they're sharing this ray right here. Okay, great. Now that they're adjacent, is there a straight line? Is there a pair, or sorry, is there opposite rays? A single pair? Yes, there is. This is a straight line. So they're adjacent, they share a side, and they make a straight line. Therefore, they are a linear pair. Now, if you want to abbreviate that one, you still write out the word linear, and then the abbreviation for pair is just PR. So go ahead and try number 3. Go ahead and pause the video and try number 3. Well, let's see. There's two intersecting lines, so it must be vertical angles. No, remember to always go back and try, are they adjacent or not? These are in fact adjacent, so it doesn't matter that there's two intersecting lines. The important part is that there is a line. So they're adjacent and there's forming a line, so this is a linear pair. Okay. So let's do a little bit more complicated picture. It's a little bit more accurate of what our normal year looks like. So we're going to pick, is it a linear pair? Is it vertical angles? Or maybe they just plain old adjacent? So angles 1 and 4, are they adjacent? Do they share a side? No. So then the second half, do they have two intersecting lines? Yes. So these are vertical angles. The moment they're not adjacent, they may potentially be vertical angles. Okay, 1 and 5, 1 and 5. Are they adjacent? Yes, they are. They share this ray right here. Now that they're adjacent, do they make a straight line? Yes, they do. So this is a linear pair. Number 3, angles 3 and 4. Start out. Are they adjacent? Do they share a side? Yes, they do. Do they make a straight line? No, they make an angle. So they're only adjacent. That's the best we can get out of them. Because again, if they're adjacent, they cannot be vertical angles. So go ahead and give number 4 a try on your own. Good. Hopefully you said linear pair, because angles 4 and 5 are in fact sharing a side and they're making a straight line. So it's a linear pair. And then number 5, explain why angles 3 and 5 do not form vertical angles. Like I'm telling you that up front, they're not vertical angles. Why? Use key vocabulary to answer this question. Again, the best way to use key vocabulary is go back and look at your definitions, your postulates, your theorems. Please pause the video and answer question number 5. Okay. So what I did is there are 2 potential answers, only because when we look at the definition, there's 2 potential situations. We already know that 3 and 5 are non-adjacent. So the first half of the definition works. Yet I told you they were not vertical angles. So it's the back half of the definition that's not working, and that's what you want to write. These two angles do not form two intersecting lines. So that's one of the ways you can say it. Or you could have said, these two angles do not form two pair of opposite rays, because that's what it says, two pair of opposite rays. So either one of those answers is acceptable. The reality is you need to understand how much of the definition was being fulfilled and how much was not, because what was not being fulfilled is the answer to this question.